Shamaya, you did it.
STL Music.
Is that good? Welcome back to the show. Yo, listen up, we back in the game. Sweep the league, we got the flame. Motivated to the fullest every single day. We wake up, get it in every way. Working the two in the global inspiration. Talk this sports and top news, no hesitation. Sweep the league is back. We always coming back, that's a fact. Wanna tell them that STL Music, mama, we did it, where we at? Coach Jill in the house with the flow so tight. Never done, Purple Rock stats, we unite. Yeah, the best show, Monday through Friday. If this ain't different, they lying. We got the energy. When I say sweep, you say the league. Sweep the league, sweep the league, sweep the league, sweep the league. San Antonio, let's go. Sweep the league. Sweep the league. Sweep the league. San Antonio, let's go.
Hey, it's Rain Fernandez, and you're watching Sweep the League. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and Facebook at Rain Fernandez, Rayne Fernandez.
2, 1.
Well, as you guys can tell, Derek Gervin doesn't miss anything. If you don't want to miss anything as well, go to YouTube. Search at Sweep the League TV. Be a subscriber today. We're giving away a bunch of prizes and stuff. Be a subscriber today so you don't miss, just like Derek never misses. Subscribe to Sweep the League.
Hi, it's Sherilyn, and you're watching Sweep the League TV. Follow me on Instagram at official Sherilyn for more content.
Hey, this is George Iceman Gervin, and you're listening to Sweep the League Radio.
Sweep the league TV where legends collide. If the Cowboys fall short, we'll still ride the tide. Like Jordan in the clutch or Brady's last play. We bring the fire, keeping fans in the fray. Coach Gio and Rudy calling the shots. With Derek Gervin, straight Hall of Fame thoughts. So hit that subscribe, don't sit on the bench. Get in the game, every highlight's intense. The live stream's on, tell your friends don't delay. Like Kobe in the fourth, we're here to play. Sweep the League TV, where greatness resides. From the blondes at the drives to my heart's on the rise. We're all in on sports, NBA, CFB, and more for fans. By fans, it's the show you'll adore.
What is up, everybody? It is the Wednesday night version of Sweep the League. Rudy Campos Jr. going to be joined by Hall of Famer Derek Gervin here in just a little bit. And you know what? Shout out to MCS General Contracting, proud sponsors of Sweep the League. We're going to take it back old school tonight. You know, hey, man, NFL's coming up to the end of the season. You got the college football playoffs happening this weekend, starting off with Indiana, Notre Dame. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. We're going to take a break tonight. You know, the NBA Cup Finals, you know, Oklahoma City versus Milwaukee just happened. We saw Milwaukee win. NBA is getting back into the rhythm now. So we're going to make this a chill night. And who better to chill with than with a guy who was in the NBA in the throwback era? And that's Derek Gervin. And you'd be surprised, I'm wearing a throwback jersey. So it says Atlanta. And I bet y'all guys don't know who this jersey belongs to, like who the player is. If you do, throw it in the chat there. But I'm wearing an old school Atlanta jersey, so I'm pretty sure Derek knows who it might be. So we're going to ask him, see if he knows. But if you guys know ahead of time, drop it in the chat. We've got people in the chat here. Sith Lord Elias, first in the room. Yes, you are. We are live. Shout out to Wesley Perkins, man. Thanks for joining us tonight for some old school NBA talk. Let's not waste any time. This is my favorite time of the week here. Favorite time, favorite shows are when we talk old school NBA. Let's bring him on, the living legend himself, the Hall of Famer, Derek Gervin, man. What is up, Derek?
Hey, how you doing, sir? Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, man. I'm already excited. You talking about old school? That's right up my alley.
Well, I figured we talk a lot of NBA. We talk a lot of football. We talk everything. We just need a night where we kind of just chill, reminisce with everybody out there. And like Sita says, he needs to get up his Kevin Garnett jersey. It's the first jersey he ever owned. Well, we're going to go even further back than Kevin Garnett. And I know Sith is young, man. Sith is very, very young. So, yeah, it's going to go a lot further than that. But Kevin Willis jersey. No, this is not a Hawks Kevin Willis jersey. So, good guess. Kevin Willis was not playing with the Hawks during this era of basketball. But again, it is a Atlanta jersey. So, I don't know, Derek. You got a guess on who it is?
Hey, man. We're already off to a good start. Even before the jersey, we've already heard Garnett. And who was his coach? Rest in peace, my coach, Flip Saunders. The only championship I ever won in my career was the CBA. Flip was my coach. And then who was the last one you just mentioned?
Kevin Willis.
Yeah, and where is he from? Detroit, Michigan. I played. Kevin and I go back all the way to high school. We played against each other in high school in Detroit.
Man, see, memories being made left and right, and he's saying he's just turned 29 this year, so he's here for the ride, and it's going to be a fun ride, man. Kevin Willis, man, you know, it's funny because Wesley brings up Kevin Willis, part of everybody remembers him as part of a pretty dominant Hawks team, a pretty good Hawks team. Glenn, Doc Rivers, Dominique Wilkins, Spud Webb. I'm going to throw another name out there. I believe their center was Moses Malone for a little bit. Moses Malone was there. Right after that was John Koncak and Blair Rasmussen. Those were two guys that were part of that Hawks team. But golly, I'm throwing names out there. Then I promise you, I have nothing on. I have eBay on one and Twitter on the other, so I don't have names that I'm looking up here. But that Hawks team, it's another one of those teams that you mentioned a while back that they got Jordaned. They always got Jordan in the East.
I watched a Dominique interview actually yesterday, and he was talking to on what's that? All That Smoke to Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes, and he was talking about how when they used to play against the Bulls, and it was amazing because he was talking about how he got he would have 40 and Mike would have 40 something or whatever, and then he mentioned the game where he had 57. It wasn't against the Bulls, but he had 57, and then I think later that week they played the Bulls. And so Mike goes into their locker room before the game. I believe at that time Randy Whitman was playing. And so Mike told them, whoever's guarding me tonight, make sure you lace up because, come ready because it's going to be a special night. And then lo and behold, how many did Mike have that game? He had 60. So I guess he wasn't happy about Dominique getting 57. And that kind of reminded me of if you remember when Kevin McHale got 56. Yeah. Not long after that, Larry Bird had to show him who was the number one player on the team with the Celtics. And Bird went out and dropped 60.
Man, Larry Bird, I would say what people don't realize and that I've come quickly to realize was Larry Bird, probably the best trash talker the game has ever seen. I think in one of my humbled opinion, Larry Bird has a ton of stories, man. Leah's throwback to me is long-haired Ginobili, rookie Chris Paul, and Shaq on the Magic. Can't wait to see what y'all are talking about. See, that's old school for Sith. I'm pre-Magic. I'm pre-Timberwolves. So I go back a lot further than that. I'm way back then. Pre-Hornets for sure. Spud Webb winning the dunk contest was the most awe-inspiring feat ever. So yeah, I mean, Spud Webb was another guy, had a long career in Atlanta. He went over to Sacramento, played at Sacramento for a little bit. But that's a good topic. We're just going to continue with you guys' topics on there. Remember, take a guess. If you want to get a gift card, take a guess at what my jersey I'm wearing tonight. So that would be a pretty cool thing for you guys. What's that?
Don't Google it. See if you can figure it out without Googling. I'm asking you to try to figure it out. What's the number, Rudy? I can't see the jersey number.
Well, that's the thing. I don't want to give the jersey number away. It's pretty easy to guess the jersey on the player. I don't want to give the number because if I give the number, it's going to give it away. I will say that.
So don't cheat. Let's try to figure this out on our own let's do some sweep the league service tonight.
Yeah, I'll show you at the end of the show. So everybody will know. I'll show everybody.
Can I take my guess early? No, I'll wait.
Yeah, I think go ahead and wait because I'm pretty sure you could guess it
Yeah,
right
I'll
away.
wait. Yeah,
I,
I'll wait.
Wesley bringing up Spud Webb. The NBA, man. Again, we're talking old school NBA. We're going down memory lane here. Spud Webb won the dunk contest, but the NBA has seen its fair share of little men who made it big. Spud Webb being one. Muggsy Bogues had a brilliant career for a very long time. You can't forget guys like Michael Adams. I mean, another guy that was a really, really good player, all the way to Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul Rauf is the same player for you guys out there. I mean, can you go over a little bit more of the little men in the NBA? Because, I mean, would you consider even guys like Dana Barros as guys that were successful in the league being under a certain?
Yeah, you had some guys. You had Nick Van Exel, Dana Barros, Michael Adams, of course. I go back to the Nate Tiny Archibald
Yeah,
days. A guy to me that his career was marred by injuries, but you're talking about a guy that we would be talking about in the top five, I think, point guards all time. It had Calvin Murphy. For the young people who don't know who Calvin Murphy is, look it up. I know some of you are familiar with Pistol Pete Maravich averaging about 44, 45 points a game in college.
oh,
Calvin Murphy played at Niagara, and he averaged over 40 points a game. And if you want to be honest about his height, Calvin Murphy wasn't even over 5'8", but he averaged 40 points a game in college. Went on to have a stellar career with the Houston Rockets. So
yeah.
those are the two. You want to go way back. Those guys, for just phenomenal players. But there's been so many undersized guys. I can't leave out Speedy Claxton, of course, who we were fortunate to interview a couple months ago. So I got to give a
Friend of the
shout
show.
out to Speedy. We talk depending on the size you're talking. We got AI, Allen Iverson, of course. So
Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas.
Whew.
These guys all made it happen, and they weren't very big guys, but they could play the game of basketball at a very high level. And I
Yeah,
got to
man.
bring in the main one for me. Another one, since I mentioned Isaiah, by the name of John Stockton, the all-time assist leader and the steals leader by a mile.
I'm glad you transitioned to John Stockton because last night before we ended the show, I said we've got to talk about the disrespect for John Stockton because he never gets mentioned in top point guards as one of the top point guards. He never gets mentioned as one of the best all time players of all time. Period. And you're talking about a guy who, if you think about it, in baseball terms, Nolan Ryan has records that will never be touched ever, no matter who it is. It's never going to be touched. Now you look at basketball. John Stockton has records that would never be broken ever. I mean, you're talking the assist record. Chris Paul would have to play another 6, 7 years to come close to breaking that record, and also the steals record. I mean, he put up numbers that you could not even imagine. And the thing is, if you think about it, he was the true Iron Man of NBA for a while there. I mean, I think he played 82 games. I couldn't remember offhand how many years in a row. And
Only 2 years of his career, only 2 years of his career, I believe, he did not play 82 games.
yeah, I mean, the guy was an Iron Man. And people don't what is it that John Stockton doesn't get the credit for? Because I know he's not flashy, but I mean, the Gary Payton came out and said that John Stockton was the absolute hardest person to guard for him. We're talking about the glove, one of the best defenders in the NBA, saying that John Stockton was a problem for him.
Well, to me, he was flashy. He didn't do the through, the around the back and all that 10 dribbles like they do today.
Yeah.
But he had the ball on the string. And he was a guy, certain guys you don't even try to take the ball from. And he didn't. He had a really great assist to turnover ratio. And the guy could just flat out play basketball. I don't know if it's because he went to Gonzaga. I don't know if some people don't like Karl Malone and they penalized John Stockton for that. I've heard him called a dirty player before. But if you look at this era, I'm a big Chris Paul fan, but was he any dirtier than Chris Paul?
No.
So that doesn't take away what he did as a player. And people have to realize this: all his assists weren't to Karl Malone. I
Yeah.
mean, there was Jeff Hornacek. There was people by the name of Adam Keefe. They had other players,
Oh,
Mark Eaton. They had guys that played. He made the team better, and his
it's
assists and his steals. I mean, just top of the line. And he was an Iron Man, like he said. The guy put it all on the line. He set screens on big men. He played the entire game, and he played it well. And for me, he's in the top 5 point guards. That I don't consider Steph a point guard, to be honest. I consider Steph Curry as a shooting guard. And so I either way, I have John Stockton in the top 5 point guards of all time.
I mean, you really can't not have him in the top 5 point guards of all time. I mean, you're looking at point guards. Obviously, you've got Stockton, you've got Magic, Isaiah Thomas is another one. Chris Paul, you would throw Chris Paul up there in the top 5, I'm sure. Who would be your 4th or your 5th up there?
I got Chris 5 or 6. I have Magic Johnson. I have Oscar Robertson.
Oscar Robertson.
I have Isaiah Thomas. I have John Stockton. And for me, remember, I'm old school. My 5th one is Walt Clyde Frazier, who you know, with the New York Knicks, played one of the best championship games that's ever been played in a game 7, 36 points, 19 assists, and 7 rebounds. So, I watched him play, him and Earl the Pearl Monroe. So it's hard for me to put even Chris Paul over Walt Frazier. And he won two titles as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to argue with you on that for sure. Wesley Perkins brought up Pat Lever and Alex English. We're going to get into those two guys. They've been brought up a lot on this show. Wesley said Sidney Moncrief came to my mind for my jersey. No, not Sidney Moncrief. So good guess on that one, Wesley. Also, a friend of the show, Jeff Garcia, Locked on Spurs, says, fellas, why is the NBA ratings down? Feels like it's not must-see TV anymore. We talked about last night. We'll give you that answer again here in a minute. Gazzato's, hey, y'all need me to take GeoSpot some days. I'll be here. You know what, man? Definitely, we're gonna reach out to Gazzato for Geo substitute here. We may have to get Gazzato on here because he brings it every single time. As long as we keep it a little simmered down on the Falcon talk. I'm a Falcon fan. You're a Falcon fan. We got to keep it just a little bit simmered down on that right now. I'm still mourning this.
Hey, Rudy, wait now. I don't know. I don't think Gazzato could be quiet about the Falcons right now, especially with the Michael Penix move. But we'll get into that later.
Man, I ordered a Penix jersey and it said it won't be delivered until January. So I said, forget it. Cancel that order. I was trying to show.
Oh, they have to see how he plays first.
Yeah,
if he plays well, they'll speed up your order.
Well, I figured if he plays bad, it might go on half price by the end of the year. So I'll wait on that, see how that goes. Leha's in here. What's up, fellas? In the house tonight. What up, Leha? Shout out to MCS General Contracting, Chris Leha and the boys, proud sponsors of Sweep the League. Let's get back to some of these comments there because they're coming in here. Let's get to Jess first here. Why is the NBA's rating down? So we talked about it last night. We've talked about it a couple times. It's just a different game right now. It's not must-see TV. It's not, for me, I kind of said where you had Jordan back in the day, you had those marquee matchups. You always wanted to watch them. Hey, Mike's playing. I think when it comes to LeBron, he's kind of just forced down our throat. Basically, it's LeBron this. Even if LeBron has 2 points, it was the most magnificent and graceful and hardworking 2 points any player has ever had in the NBA history, and that's what we get. But that's where NBA difference from then to now. It's a lot more shooting. I don't like watching teams go, 11 for 77 from 3-point range and the other team go 10 for 84 from 3-point range. It's just, the game to me is just boring. I wish it would go back to old school basketball. But Derek, again, for Jeff, just give him your take on the NBA ratings.
Well, I think mainly it's because it's predictable, Jeff. And we talked about this last night. You basically know what the guys are going to do. They run down, they spot up at the 3-point line. So it's basically just to take the layup or throw it out to the 3-point line. And I think it's become too predictable, and the fans want excitement. And I thought I had to add another reason that I didn't talk about last night. Last night I said it was predictable, but here's a big issue as well. When I was playing my brother's era, my era, the 2000s, the late 90s, they had rivalries. Yeah. And if you notice today, they don't have rivalries. And I think that's very important. You used to wait. You couldn't wait to see Bird against Magic, the Lakers versus the Lakers and Celtics. That you had rivalry, the Knicks and whoever it may be, Philadelphia or whatever, and you got to see Jordan against Dominique. Things like that. I think it was very important. Even when you go back to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar era, Lou Alcindor, when Kareem was playing against Wilt Chamberlain. So you got Oscar Robertson and Kareem. You're playing against Jerry West and Wilt Chamberlain and Gail Goodrich. Real rivalries. And I think that's part of what we're missing today. The guys played hard. And, back then it was no nonsense. And we played like the game really, really mattered. It was like our lives were on the line, our livelihoods. And today these guys don't play like that. They get this $50-60 million. And we played like we were trying to earn something, that we had to earn our spot back then. You didn't play in the league unless you earned your spot. And today, as we know, Bronny's 55th pick. I'm not going to get into that too much, but a lot of guys today are being given gifts and you're not earning your spots. And I think that rubs some people the wrong way. And I think the predictability of knowing they're going to shoot, now they try to even shoot more 3-pointers. And I know the other day they made 48 3-pointers. I believe it was the Warriors against the Timberwolves, I believe it was.
Yeah.
But that's ugly basketball, because how often do you see 48 threes made? And I don't even like the fact that they're shooting that many threes, but that's where we are today. And I think it's kind of turned some people off. There's no physicality. I want to see guys that can defend without having to worry about the refs blowing the whistle. And I mean, it's just the competition is different. And I think that's rubbing some people the wrong way.
Yeah, it really is. And a lot of these people are making, a lot of the guys making comments here that are perfect. Ratings, NBA ratings down. Y'all saw how many threes OKC missed. It was ugly. Yeah, I mean, we're watching it. They were shooting 15% from 3-point range, and that's the thing. The 3-point shot, as exciting as it was back in the day, because I looked forward to the 3-point contest more than 3-point attempts in a game. I mean, that's the way it was with me. It was more physical basketball back then. It was getting to the basket. It was Jordan, doing acrobatic moves. It was Magic Johnson making that no-look pass. It was a lot more fundamental basketball back in the day than it is now. And that's why, to me, it's just super boring, man. Leha says, man, these dudes are jacking up threes. Like, it's the only option. Again, that it goes back to that whole thing about 3-point shots. Jeff has a follow-up. There's no next up players, Wemby, Ant, who else? And, you can say to me, in my opinion, there really is no future face of the NBA right now. You can put Wemby there. You can put Ant. You can put, somebody maybe coming up. People are already talking about Cooper Flag maybe being the face of the NBA. How can you be the face of the NBA if you're not even going to be the first pick of the draft right now? I mean, the kid's not going to be number one right now. Let's be honest. He's really not. And a matter of fact, I mean, he's dropping probably in the 4th pick right now. If we're being 100% honest, there's guys that their game is just excelling in college, making moves left and right, rising up those draft boards. But I'll say this, and then I'll let Derek in on the face of the next up players. But Dylan Harper, I'm going to throw Cooper Flag in there. You've got a lot of guys that are coming out. Stojakovic's son, he's coming out. But if you look at their highlights right now, the one thing I notice, all three amongst everybody else attack the basket. They're not really, they're shooting maybe 8, 9 threes a game, maybe 5 or 6. But I see them attacking the basket a lot more, initiating the contact. A lot of it has to do with their upbringing. Dylan Harper, Ron Harper, Stojakovic. You're starting to see the older players come out into their sons, and that's what I like right now. But face of the next up players, Derek, you really can't circle anybody right now, because those guys like Steph and them, they're on their way out.
Rudy, if you remember, just in the Olympics, you see how well you got South Sudan, you had Serbia, You had France, and if you notice, when France played, who got a lot of shine? He got so much shine that it brought him to the NBA with the Philadelphia 76ers. Wasn't that Yabusele?
Yabusele, yeah.
Where was he playing? They had Yabusele and another guy on their team had some braids, and they just had a coming out party.
Yeah.
And they were making their living from 15 feet on in.
Mm-hmm.
And it made France a very formidable team. They gave us trouble in the finals, and it wasn't shooting a bunch of threes. If you remember France, they didn't take a lot of threes. The coach got upset. He called Victor out publicly about shooting up those threes instead of making his living in the paint.
Yeah.
And I think you got to find a balance, man. I don't mind the threes, but I mind it when you're going 5 for 32. I mind it when you're going 10 for 47 and you continue to shoot threes. We're taking away the brain part, the IQ part of the game. If the threes aren't working, then that's a night that you have to do something else. So I'm hoping that they can find a balance, kind of meet in the middle somewhat, and make it more exciting. I like seeing guys drive and slash into the basket. And somebody brought up Manu Ginobili. Was that Gazzato?
No, that was Sith earlier.
Oh, it's okay. Sith brought up Manu. What was Manu known for? Was it shooting 3-pointers? He could shoot them, but Manu was a slasher, getting to that basket and throwing that, and that hair blowing, and he throwing it down with the left hand, man, finishing around the basket. That's what was exciting. I don't like the James Harden basketball, especially when he was in Houston with the 10 dribbles and you running down the shot clock, and then you do a step back and take a terrible percentage shot, or you try to throw it to somebody in the last 3 seconds, and then they got to jack up a bad shot. I don't like that kind of basketball. I like the team having cohesiveness, playing whatever is the best shot. See, they talk about analytics, but high percentage to me is what's the best shot. That's what makes sense. Just because it's 3, I know 3 is better than 2, but 3 is only better than 2 when the 3s are going in. So 2s are better than 3s if the 2s are the shots that is going in.
Exactly. And that's the problem with the NBA. And it's just a 3-point shooting league and it's boring. But let me throw in a little factor, because Jeff asked another question here. And again, we're gonna get to all your comments. So he says, how much the blame is on Adam Silver? Before we get to that, let me throw this in there, Derek. So me growing up, I started to watch the NBA. My dad took me to Spurs games. I remember going into Hemisphere Arena. I remember watching, Hakeem Olajuwon play. I remember watching a lot of guys, Jordan and the Bulls coming in. And I'll never forget, my mom was so happy. She bought the tickets. Sadly, the tickets were right behind one of the pillars, so we had to rely on, half of the court here, half of the court there. So, I mean, for those of you guys that were in Hemisphere Arena and know about the pillars, they were cheap tickets for a reason. So we were behind there, but I got to experience that live. But here's the thing. What we don't have today that we had back in the day was TBS broadcasting Atlanta Hawk games, WGN broadcasting Bulls games. Of course, the Spurs games were available and you didn't have to, have cable service. Like, you didn't have to go get an extra cable service to watch them, or these days go get Bally streaming or whatever. I mean, then you looked forward to Sunday marquee matchups in the afternoon when it was NBA on NBC. I mean, yeah, they had TNT back then, but the exposure you got, it was kind of like, okay, San Antonio, you got your Spurs, but how about on a Tuesday night, you got the Hawks and the Bucks? We got TBS going here. On WGN, we got, the Bulls and the Heat. So I was exposed to more than just San Antonio team, a San Antonio team. I was exposed to all these other teams, and I could watch them just about every night. And that's what I think the NBA is missing. They're worried about the dollar and not understanding that giving the product away like they used to generated more eyes on the teams. I don't know if that's a problem, or I don't know if that's just me, but I became more of a fan knowing I could go home from school and I was going to watch a Hawks game or a Bulls game or a Spurs game. and it didn't have to. And I wasn't worried about how I was going to watch it. It was just on cable TV.
Well, now you got to have Fire Stick and all these other sites.
Yeah.
And people don't want to go through all of that, man. They want to watch free basketball, and the game has just changed. I know it's a different era. We have some great players in this era, but I want to see what guys could do when they're being guarded physically. And see, if you really look at it, Milwaukee was physical with Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And how many points did Oklahoma City do? They scored 81 points.
80 something? Yeah, 81 or something.
81. And they got beat 97-81. And they were 5 for 32 from three. So they making a living off of the threes. But I'm hoping that changes when Big Chet gets back. Because now you got a Twin Towers with Isaiah Hardenstein and Chet Holmgren. And I'm hoping that they don't make if they really want to win the championship, they can't just make your living on the 3-point line. Boston was smart enough. If you really look at it, what did Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum do if they don't have the three? They put it on the floor and they get to the basket.
Yeah.
And we've seen Jaylen Brown throw it down on many people in his career. And then you got Porzingis. Where did Porzingis hurt the team, hurt Dallas the most last year? It wasn't at the 3-point line. He was catching it at the free throw line.
Yeah.
And isolating. And if he didn't have the shot, then he might kick it out to a Sam Hauser or someone, or Tatum on the wing. But they played inside and out. Al Horford can post up over on the left mid post. So they're not just making their living at the 3-point line. And when you mix it up, that's a good balance. And that's winning basketball. And then when you put in defending on the other side of it, and you're running teams off the 3-point line, that's a winning formula.
Yeah, because Otto's right. I mean, I actually enjoyed the Olympic basketball games because they were physical. They let them play. It reminded me a lot of old school NBA ball. I loved it. And I wanted more of it, but you only get a certain amount of games for Olympic basketball. Going back to Jeff's question, he said, how much is of this to blame on Adam Silver? I think when you revise the rules, it comes back on Adam Silver, but Adam Silver is not David Stern. David Stern put his foot down and said, no. Adam Silver is a players commissioner. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. He's a players commissioner, and the players get to, they get to do what they want. And if we add, a gather step, they're going to add a gather step. They're going to don't be ticky-tack fouls. And, if I breathe on LeBron, hey, guess what? You're thrown out of the game because it's 2 technicals. It's a soft league, but at the same time, I understand why the changes are made, because he feels that it's boring basketball to watch an 84-79 final score where you can increase scoring and make it more exciting. Well, I think it bit him in the butt because, scoring increased, viewership decreased. So is it to blame for Adam? I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say.
It's not just him. He's not doing all this alone. They have committees and all of that. So I'm not gonna put all the blame on him. But Rudy, you said boring. I don't think it's boring at all when you got an 84-79.
No, it's not.
That means it was a tough-nosed game, and it was physicality. And even last night, Milwaukee won the Emirates Cup. They didn't score 100. It was 97-81.
Yeah.
And if you look at the arena, though, was only half full. Didn't it look like it was only half full?
Yeah, it did.
Because people expected a barrage of 3-pointers. And why would you have a barrage of 3-pointers when you got a Giannis Antetokounmpo on your team? Where is Giannis going? He's going downhill
to the basket.
And it's got him 2 MVPs. Jokic doesn't make his living at the 3-point line.
Nope.
He shoots a few threes, but he takes rhythm shots. When they're good, the ball's kicked out to him and they don't guard him or whatever. He's not jacking up threes with people in his face. He's doing what you call old school fundamental basketball, shot fake. Put it on the floor and get to the basket.
Yeah.
That's the kind of game I want to see. And if then you make everyone have to kind of defense have to converge on you, and then you can kick it out to the 3-point line. I don't like three being the first option. I think it's boring. And like I said earlier, it's predictable. It's like watching a game of Around the World. If you remember Around the World, for those of you that remember what Around the World, you and your buddy go out and shoot from the 5 or 6 spots around the 3-point line.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that in NBA basketball when these guys are making millions of dollars. I want to see competition. And that's who you find out who are the great players. I don't like them anointing these guys when they haven't earned it. I want to see guys put it all on the line, not flopping. We got Joel Embiid. How much does he weigh? 300 pounds. Every time we look around, Joel Embiid is on the ground more than a wrestler. He's on the ground more than Stone Cold Steve Austin and those guys. and I don't want to see that. I want to see some Shaquille O'Neal basketball when you got guys under there crying, he's roughing me up, bro. He's just a beast under here. That's the kind of stuff I want to see. I wanted to see that from Zion Williamson. But I know he's been injury prone, but that's the kind of basketball I want to see, man. I want to see I don't want to see Anthony Davis shooting fadeaway jump shots every game or every year. I want to see him attacking that basket, utilizing his skills, and getting to that cup. And then if you have to throw it out after that to the 3-point line, that's how I want to see it, man. I want to see some good physical basketball and high IQ basketball without the 4 or 5 steps and the palming the ball every other play or sometime every play. You see these guys, man, What are they doing? Hand under the ball. I was taught if your hand's under the ball, that's palming.
That's it.
That's palming. And I don't want to see that kind of stuff, man. That tells me that their skill set is really not as great as people are saying it is, or you wouldn't have to make the rules so easy for them. And that's what I don't like about it.
Yeah, I really don't like it at all. And Sid the saying killer wrestling reference with the Stone Cold thing. That was pretty cool because I was in here. I'm not gonna lie, Jordan and how they changed the rules is an era changed everything in the NBA. Sith is all the BS started when Boogie Cousins Harden cried and flopped every possession and got rewarded for it. I'm gonna get hate for saying, but Jordan era started all the changing. Horrible coaches like Tony Brothers.
Wait, Rudy, let me address that though.
Yeah.
The Jordan rule didn't really start it. If you look at it, if they had to change the rules somewhat, the Pistons were trying to maim the man.
Yeah.
I'm from Detroit, and I didn't like that kind of play. They were bridging him, going underneath him, and they were doing things that were not basketball related. They weren't really basketball plays. Yeah. So you had to kind of change it. But to change it to where we are today, I mean, come on, man. It's basically now, what do you see? You know, if a guy drives to the basket, there's going to be no friction there. They're just going to go there, watch him dunk the ball, and then they're going to try to outlet it to the other end. And guys are stopping on 1-on-3. And where are they pulling up from?
3-point range.
3-point. I don't want to see the Jordan Poole type basketball.
God, it's terrible. It's getting terrible right there. Jeff's got another one. Do you think NBA will go back to the 90s half-court style to correct the 3-point shooting craziness in this era? I don't see it.
They do it already, Rudy. They do it already in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, the playoffs, yeah. And that's I won't lie. Playoff basketball is a lot better.
But it causes confusion because in the playoffs, you see how guys are crying in the playoffs because now they're not calling all the physicality. They're letting guys get away with a lot of pushing and stuff.
Yeah.
It confuses the guys because those are not the calls they're accustomed to during the regular season.
Yeah.
So now in the regular season, they're getting little ticky-tack fouls. If you fall down, LeBron, and I'm being honest, he might get headbutted by Tristan Thompson, who's his own teammate, and he might fall down. And, they might call a foul on somebody.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that kind of basketball.
Yeah, it's happened before. So, I mean.
Yeah, so in the playoffs, but then the playoffs come, they let them basically wrestle. Yeah. So I don't want the players to be confused. So which one is it? Are you going to let them play physical or are you not? Because I don't think it's fair that you play, and it's kind of confusing for the fans as well. You don't let them play physical during the regular season, but all of a sudden, come playoff time, you transition to physical play. And if you notice, have the playoffs, the ratings been down? I don't believe the playoff ratings have been down.
No, the playoffs. I mean,
And
they were down a little, but not much. I mean, they were still getting
they're not
popular.
down 28% like it is
No,
this year.
no. Definitely not. And
So people want to see a little physicality, man. I don't want to see the flopping around on the floor like a fish out of water. That's boring to me. My era, it was about staying on your feet, even when you're tussling under the basket. Guys wanted to stay on their feet. We weren't falling down on the floor. I have a problem when I see Chris Paul and Rudy Gobert under the basket together. They just switched off, and Chris is guarding Rudy, and Rudy's falling on the floor. A guy 6'1", 180 pounds, throwing him on the floor, and he's 230, 240 pounds. I don't want to see that kind of stuff.
no, man, nobody does. Nobody does because a lot of these players are soft, and the NBA is how WWE how they flop nowadays. He did bring up playoffs was up 3%, regular season down. So yeah, the playoffs. I mean, they were up like he said 3%. I figured they were about the same, maybe a tad lower, but no, apparently they were not. So shout out to Gazzato for bringing that up. He also asked, "You don't think the Jordan Rule did this though?" No, I mean you had to
It
protect him.
contributed.
Yeah, you had to. I mean,
Yeah, I think it. Yeah.
you're
Go ahead,
right.
Rudy.
Yeah, I would say you're right. You had to protect them. I mean, getting clotheslined and manhandled, that's not basketball. It's physical basketball. I mean, we used to play on the playground, no blood, no foul. But I mean, in the NBA, you had to protect somebody. And it wasn't just protecting Mike, it was protecting a lot of the other players. I mean, Karl Malone was very, very, very wicked with those elbows, and he caught David Robinson on the side of the head one time. You remember what he did to Isaiah Thomas when he came down the lane. So you had to start protecting players to a certain point.
Hey, Rudy, I gotta sneak this in
Go ahead.
because you're talking about Jordan rules, and I don't want people to get it wrong. Now, the
Yeah.
Pistons are the ones that named it the Jordan rules.
Yeah.
It wasn't the NBA.
You remember Bill Laimbeer was like, Jordan rules. I have no idea what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
Chuck Daly. They the ones called it the Jordan rules. That's what they went over in practice. So it wasn't the NBA that gave them that name. So the Pistons are telling you themselves that their goal was to rough him and Scottie Pippen up. And if you notice, they didn't do that to the other players, the Horace Grants and the B.J. Armstrongs and the John Paxsons. Who did they do it to? They did it to Mike and Scottie.
Yeah.
And a lot of people leave Scottie out when they talk about these rules. Scottie got his brunt of it as well.
Oh God, yeah. Oh God, yeah. He surely did, man. As long as we admit this, because imagine a LeBron rule, LMAFO, La Masa, we would crucify LeBron just thinking out loud. And I think we crucify LeBron because of his flopping. I mean, you're one of the strongest NBA players, one of the best all around NBA players in the league, and you barely get touched, and you're flopping on the ground like a fish out of water. You're holding your head because why? Nobody knows. He barely got a pinky on him, and his head, he has a headache and this and that. There's certain things that LeBron does that just it irks me the wrong way.
Do you remember he hurt Jaylen Brown? And then when he saw Jaylen Brown was hurt, then he started pretending he was hurt.
Yeah.
Anybody don't believe me? All they got to do is look it up. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Things like that. Or when he act like somebody gave him a whiplash against Denver, I believe it was. That kind of stuff. Just the theatrics. I know he's in Hollywood, but come on. And Luka's not any better. I got to be honest. Luka and Harden, they do a lot of flopping. And then I got to get to the biggest one. Is Luka and LeBron and Mr. Embiid, man. I mean, come on. If Joel stayed on his feet, I don't even know if he'd be injured, man. The guy falls down, and if you look at some of his falls, they're unnecessary. And, that's a lot of wear and tear on your body when you're hitting that wood floor and you're hitting it hard. And it's a lot of times it's unnecessary, and that contributes to injuries.
Oh, yeah. Definitely understand that. Wesley is in here. No rivalries, no emotion ties to cities. Fans are more interested in supporting players. There's no loyalty. Yeah, I mean, there is no loyalty amongst players. If you're not winning, you're going somewhere else to win. And you start joining up these super teams. LeBron's using the Jordan rules to his advantage. He sure is. Now the facts LeBron is an actor. You're right. Yeah, LeBron is definitely an actor. Saying LeBron missed a layup against the Spurs, flinched his forehead like he got smacked up. He was all alone. That happens plenty of times. one more for Jeff. Do the players have more blame because in this era it is buddy among players and minimal personal rivalries? We did say that, back in the day, let's be real. Jordan and all these guys, Bird and Magic, perfect example. They were probably the best of friends off the court, but on the court, they were the worst of enemies. They would go at each other's throat if need be to win the game. That's the thing that we miss today. Go ahead, Derek.
No, I'm just saying because I'm glad you on that, and not to cut you off. I played professionally for 14 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So I played the NBA, and I got some minutes and all of that. I had actually got up to where I was playing 35 minutes a night, and of course, I hurt my back, and you know the story more than a lot of others. So I decided to go overseas. I played in the CBA, the Continental Basketball Association. So out of 14 years of my career, do you know what my favorite game was of the 14 years? In the CBA, Santa Barbara Islanders, the team I was on when I got picked up out of Nets, versus the Quad City Thunder. And do you know who was on the Quad City Thunder at that time, trying to make a comeback at the end of his career? A guy by the name of George Gervin.
Yeah.
To play against my brother, not with him, was the most exciting moment of my entire career. I won a championship in the CBA with Lacrosse Catbirds and Flip Saunders, but my most important, the happiest moment that I had was competing against my brother in a professional basketball game.
Yeah. I remember you telling me that story. And that's crazy because even brother versus brother, hey, you love your brother loves you. It's all family, it's all love. But on the court, you want to win, man.
I wanted to kick his ass, excuse my language.
Exactly. Oh, be as real as you need to be. You wanted to kick his ass, that's what you were out there to do. And that's the thing that people don't understand about today's game. There's no, I want to kick their ass. I want to be the top team. It's like, oh, hey, buddy, how are you doing? Oh, great. Hey, we're going to eat after this, yada, yada, yada. We're all friends, whatever.
We're going to eat after, but after I kick your ass. Hey, I went to eat my last year of my career, 2000, 2001. George was the coach, and the ABA had come back out. So I'm playing in Detroit, and I'm playing against another friend of mine, and we had a little tussle because I didn't like him knocking my nephew down. George Gervin Jr. was playing on my team, and that was Antoine Carr. So I ended up doing something to Antoine, knocking his goggles off. And we had a little, they had to separate us, but really they wouldn't have to. We weren't going to fight, but I had to let them know, man, that's my teammate. At this time, he's my nephew, but that's my teammate. And then, later on, after the game, Antoine and I, it was like it never happened. But during the competition, during the game, I'm not your friend, man. I love you, but there's no love during this game. And I'm not going to try to hurt you, physically injure you. And I know you're going to do the same. But if you get elbowed upside your head under the basket, my man, hey, I'm going to check on you after the game. But all's love, all's fair in love and war. And when we strap it up and put it up, we get out on that floor, hey, man, may the best man win.
Yeah, I hear, and I don't know if we have time for it tonight, but you got a great Ricky Pierce story that I've always heard, and that was it's got to be a story that's got to be told because you and Ricky went at it one time, and now, like you said, y'all are friends now. I mean, everything's good and all.
We still talk today. He'll call me after he goes plays golf or whatever, and it's funny. Ricky and I we became friends through a little adversity on the court. And now we're still friends to this day.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's lifelong brotherhood, man. Just because you play hard on the court doesn't mean that you're going to be enemies at the end. I mean, you're just enemies on the court, and that's the difference. Back then, the rivalries were rivalries. It didn't matter. It did not matter at all. So, got to keep that in mind. Back to my jersey, Dolph Shays. That's a hell of a guess, man. Dolph Shays, but unfortunately, Wesley, it's not Dolph Shays, man. So again, we're trying to play guess the jersey. I gave y'all a hint earlier. It's an Atlanta jersey, but you can guess the jersey. Drop it in the comments there. Derek is just.
I'm trying to give y'all a little tip who I think it is.
He wants to give it out, but I can't let him give it out. I don't want to give away a free gift card or anything for nothing. What about Ime Udoka? His motto for the team is "No friends on the court." 100%, man.
They don't know. They don't know who this is today. I'm trying to give a little tip who I think it is.
We got to keep it a secret. We got to keep it a secret, at least for another 10 minutes, 15 minutes here. We got to keep it a secret somehow, man. Yeah, Derek just said it, man. Jeff, it's Ime Udoka is right. There's no friends on the court. You're there to win a basketball game. You're there with your teammates. There's plenty of time to text. There's plenty of time to call, catch up for a late night dinner after the game. Just play the game. You're there with your teammates. If your brother's on the other side, you know what? You're there to win, man. They pay you to win the game. Just go win the game. That's all what it really comes down to. Says, I remember graduating from middle school. Every high school game that had a player from my middle school were his favorite games. I'm smacking helmets that game afterwards. Let's go get pizza. Exactly. Your friends off the court. That's cool to be friends. No doubt. When I played basketball, middle school, we go to high school. There were friends of mine that played at Antonian. There was friends of mine that played at Holy Cross. When we played, we competed, we battled. But after the game, it was high fives. It was a hug. Hope you're doing good. How's everything going? Yada yada yada. And we go about our business, man. That's the way sports should be played, and that's the way that I remember it being played. Dominique Wilkins. That is probably the best guess so far, but no, man, it is not Dominique Wilkins for the Atlanta Hawks. Good. That's a great guess. That's a great guess. So keep your guesses coming, man. If you want to win a gift card here from Sweep the League, talking to Hall of Famer Derek Irvin, Rudy Campos Jr. We're going old school NBA tonight. Let's kick it back to some more old school, man. Alex English was brought up earlier, the Denver Nuggets. You and I have talked about Alex English in the past. I mean, the guy was a true, legit scorer. I mean, the most points in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken, in the 80s era was Alex English, not Karl Malone, not Jordan, nobody like that. It was Alex English. But he's along the lines of the guys that were major scorers in the league that don't get the love that they deserve. Another guy, Bernard King. I mean, the guy could score on anybody, but you do not get the love for these guys. Alex English, man. I mean, one of the guys that deserves to be mentioned when it comes to all-time great scorers.
One of only two guys I saw, and the other one they call the Iceman. One of only two guys I saw to give you 30 or 40 points and look like their jersey wasn't even wet, man.
Yeah.
So Alex, and he was very efficient. If you let him, Alex English is going to kill you. And he preferred to be on the right side of the court. But even if he went to the left side, he was just a tough guard for people to guard. Rudy, he wasn't the quickest guy, but he was so efficient, and every dribble had meaning to it. He wasn't just dribbling for nothing. And you could not leave him open. If you leave him open, he's going to make 98% of those shots. And it's sad that they don't talk more about him. And then you bring up Bernard. Of course, you know I wore number 30 in college and the NBA because of Bernard King. Another prolific scorer. The guy that if he didn't get hurt, he'd be a top 20 player all time. I really believe that. If he didn't get hurt, you're talking about a guy that's top 20. My brother could score, and that Bernard King just could flat out put the basketball in the basket. And he was very intense. Yeah. Whatever football player you could think of that's intense. You remember how Ray Lewis used to come out the tunnel? Everybody remember that. How he fired up his team, the Ravens.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I looked at Bernard. But Bernard was more to himself. He kept to himself, and he motivated himself. And if you looked at him on the court, he had to look like I got on my face right now before the game. Just a no-nonsense guy. Yeah. And one of the highlights of my career, again, is having him on one of my rookie cards. He's guarding me. So number 30's guarding number 30. And after the game, I couldn't wait to talk to him and to shake his hand and tell him how much I admire him. And, man, you talk about a flat-out basketball player. So him and Alex English. We talked about David Thompson. Yeah. I can't leave David Thompson out of there. Because, you know, they always do the what-ifs. Like we talk about Brandon Roy and those guys, Grant Hill and all those guys, Derrick Rose. You got to throw David Thompson in there as well. Because I think if all of those guys were at the apex of their career without injury, I think David Thompson would have been better than any player that we talk about the what-ifs, other than maybe Bill Walton and Arvydas Sabonis.
Yeah, yeah. I would say so, and I'm not going to argue that. I'm never going to argue that. I mean, David Thompson was. Oh God, man, it's those what ifs, Derek. That
Who,
that
who
irk
did
me.
Jordan have it? Who did Jordan have at his Hall of Fame induction?
David Thompson,
Yeah,
Skywalker. I
yeah.
mean, the original
Six
Skywalker, not Kenny
four.
Skywalker.
Six.
We're talking about.
He's the real Skywalker, not Kenny
Yeah,
Walker for the Knicks.
yeah,
David Skywalker Thompson, just a phenomenal player. Can get up. The guy was getting over the square, man. He's 6'4". He was legitimately. When they talk about guys jumping 40-some inches, I won't say David Thompson had a 48-inch vertical because I don't believe that yet. When they say these guys have 48, but I believe 44, and I believe that's what David Thompson's vertical was. If you look at it, man, the guy was. He'll pull your shot down off the backboard. He'll
yeah.
get these guys today trouble. Some of these centers.
Ooh,
So we
yeah,
talk about phenomenal players, and then back to John Stockton, another superior player. Really, he wasn't very big. I'll say stature wise, height wise, but basketball wise, another giant. So all these
yeah.
guys we talked about tonight, special players, and I hope they start getting their due like they deserve.
Yeah, we still got a lot more time to talk more basketball. Let's get the
But I had to
guesses
get
in.
that in though, man. And
Oh yeah, no,
Dominique
no.
Wilkins. Dominique, as you know, my best game in the NBA, well, my best scoring game was against Dominique. But another phenomenal player had me so motivated. And I also remember Bill Fitch, my coach. We played Utah, and it's a quick story. Karl Malone and I played against each other in college,
Yeah,
and so then when I get to the Nets, we end up playing in a summer league game. After my rookie year, we played in Dallas, and we played against Karl Malone. That's the year Larry Johnson was coming out, and Larry Johnson was
ooh,
at the game with Karl. And so we ended up playing Karl. I was playing with some 8-5 guys. We ended up losing at the end by about 2 points. And it was almost a little fisticuffs and all that, and some feet being used as well. So it turned into almost a brawl, I'll say, before they could get a hold of it. And Karl told me he was going to score 60 points on us when we played against Utah during the season. I was glad I wasn't guarding him. He didn't score 60, but man, he sure must have remembered our little confrontation because he sure gave it to us when we played. I felt sorry for Chris Dudley and Jack Haley and those guys because
oh,
they were getting the brunt of it. And with Karl, we know what he did to Isaiah Thomas, and he happened to split Isaiah open. But we also know what he did to David Robinson.
yeah,
He actually elbowed Tim Duncan.
yep.
There were just several guys that paid. They felt the wrath of Karl Malone. I'm fortunate that I wasn't one of them.
I hear you on that, man. And because I was guessing Matumbo, no, it wasn't Dominique. It's not Dikembe. So good guess on that one. Wesley says it's Steve Smith from the Hawks. It's not Steve Smith, not Spud
My
Webb.
buddy Steve Smith.
Steve Smith.
Who said that? Who said ask you about Steve?
Wesley Perkins guessed Steve Smith for
Wesley.
the
I took some
jersey.
pictures. I took some
Yeah, I
pictures with
saw him.
Steve Smith. I posted them a couple months ago. I took some pictures with Steve this past February in Michigan. And him and I had a move. I told him he stole my move. When you fake like you're on the baseline, you fake like you're going towards the paint, and then as soon as you dribble like you're going right, you fake and spin back the other way. And that was one of my favorite moves. So I told Steve he stole my move. And of course, Steve is also from Detroit, Michigan. So I've been knowing
Yeah.
him for quite a while.
I saw the pictures. I did see them. They were posted a while back there because Bernard Key reminds him of Sean Taylor, rest in peace, a monster on the court, but stays to himself. Facts, definitely. Great one to remember. And one of the
Redskins.
original Euros. Ah, Bressy, you're breaking my heart because we talk about
My
Drazen Petrovic
teammate.
more than we talk about Drazen more than he's one of the guys we talk about a lot on this show. He always gets mentioned and probably one of the big what ifs. I want to get to that one here in a second, but no, Clay
David
Thompson's
Thompson.
dad is Michael Thompson, not David Thompson, former Actually, former San Antonio Spur for a little bit,
Michael
and
Thompson
most
and the
LA
Lakers.
Lakers.
Michael
Yeah,
Thompson.
Lakers. Michael
Man,
Thompson.
yeah, Michael Thompson, and in college, Michael Thompson actually played with Kevin McHale, and Michael
Oh yeah.
Thompson was All American in college at the University of Minnesota, and went on to have a pretty good career in the NBA. And a lot of his time in the NBA was spent with the Lakers.
Yes, I think he's wondering why Clay can't jump. Well, no, it wasn't David Thompson. David Thompson's not his dad. If that was the case, Clay could jump out of the gym. But no, Michael Thompson is Clay's dad. Sweet Lou Hudson, man,
Sweet Lou
gotta get
Hudson.
him. Unfortunately, no, it's not Sweet Lou Hudson, but another. I would say you're
That's
getting
a fantastic guess there,
that is
Gonzalo. Sweet Lou.
that's an amazing guess right there, man. Going back to Drazen here, you know, kids don't realize that when you and I talk about what ifs, we talk about Brandon Roy, we talk, a lot of stuff. And one of the biggest what ifs that I wanted to talk to you, which not Drazen's always been one of the big what ifs for me because he was on his way to being the true first big international player and potentially not even all-star. He would have been a superstar, but potentially could have given guys like Mike and those guys a run for MVP in some instances. I mean, that's the type of player that Drazen was. So I will say the biggest what if is definitely Drazen if he had not passed away.
How,
But a what if I
how
wanted
did
to
he
ask
get?
you,
How did he get to the Nets, Rudy?
traded from Portland.
No, how did he? I know somebody
Oh,
on the Nets got hurt, and then he was
yeah, that
traded to
would
Portland. A
wasn't
guy
that
named Derek Gervin got
I was
hurt
gonna say that was the guy named Derek Gervin got hurt
because
and
at that time, I was playing the small forward behind Chris Morris,
yeah,
and I was backing up Reggie Theus at the two guard. And so then I moved into the starting lineup at the small forward, but I still spent some time at the two guard. Once I got hurt, I was out for a month and a half, dealing with my back injury, and that's when they traded and brought Draws to the New Jersey Nets. And the rest is history. I wasn't upset at all about him coming in. I figured I would get a chance to earn my spot again, but Bill Fitch made sure everyone knew that the time that I got, I wouldn't be playing 35 minutes anymore because of my back. But when I played, I would be playing at the small forward position, and Drazen Petrovic would be playing at the two guard. And at that time, he was backing up Reggie Theus. And then, as we know, the following year, they brought in Kenny Anderson and those guys. I went overseas and played, and the
yeah,
rest is history. Draws was phenomenal. I used to watch him practice, shoot around after practice. I told you I almost sued these guys for an article that they said Reggie Theus and myself were watching Draws shoot after practice. And they said in print, in writing, that Reggie and myself told him, "Hey, Draws, what are you doing? We don't do that here, man. We don't work like that here." And I should have sued them, but I didn't. But yeah, just watching Drazen, a phenomenal player, gone at 27, man. I cried like a baby. But you
mhm,
talk about, yeah, you put him in there in that list of what ifs. I might even put him over David Thompson as
yeah.
far as notoriety. I think he was that good.
Man, I've always said that he would definitely be an MVP candidate. I mean, the quickest release you probably had ever seen. You think Steph was crazy on a release and he can get shots up? If you go back and watch Draz's highlight reel, he had the quickest release you could ever imagine. And so accurate, so deadly, so very smart. I mean, one of the few guys that I could actually say when I was learning to curl off of a screen, I wanted to be like Drazen Petrovic curling off that screen. I mean, you as a coach, you teach your kids elbow to elbow when you're coming off and you're rubbing off that screen. Draws made it look so good, so tough to defend, man. I mean, biggest what if. I want to get a quick what if because we're almost at the end of the show. I want to get a what if from you. And this goes to Detroit. I mean, Dateline Detroit. You know about Detroit, a little bit about Detroit. You kind of grew up there a little bit there, but I've always wondered if there was never any friction, period. Let's just throw the friction out. How good if they actually worked as a team would the bad boy Pistons have been with a very calm and cool Adrian Dantley?
Ah, man, that's a hard one for me to answer because AD just didn't fit their style of play.
Yeah,
Because AD was ball dominant, and he wasn't a guy that was going to move without the ball. So I think they made the right move when they brought in Mark Aguirre, because
yeah,
Mark was a guy that sacrificed for the team offensively, and he knew when he came in, he didn't mind playing off the ball. And if you remember, I was going to go to DePaul probably if I didn't move here. It was between Michigan and DePaul. And
yeah.
the reason I was going to go to DePaul was because who was there at the time? They were the number one team in the country. Mark Aguirre
Mark
was leading the
Aguirre.
team. So I'm a big Adrian Dantley fan. I got a little upset when my brother let him win one of the scoring titles. George should have had 5. But of course, I told you, he told me on the phone, Derek, let the man win the scoring title, man. I already got 4. And so he didn't go after it. And that kind of bothered me. But I don't think they would have been as good with AD because a lot of people didn't like Adrian Dantley in the locker room, the players. I'm not saying they didn't like him personally. They didn't like him as a basketball player. He didn't fit their style of play. So I don't think they would have been as great as they were when they brought in Mark Aguirre.
That was a big what if for me. I always wondered how good they would be if Adrian Dantley bought into the system. I mean, you're adding another scorer to that team, another great player, but you're right. I guess he just didn't fit in there with the
Rudy,
Pistons at the time.
I want you to think about this.
Okay.
Draymond Green made a comment the other day talking about Dennis Schrader or
Yeah.
Schroeder, however you pronounce it. Okay. Now they don't want Schrader to acclimate to the way they play. They're going to have to become acclimated to the way he plays. And
Yeah.
so that would have been the same with Adrian Dantley. Isaiah would have had to sacrifice some of his game, and which also meant Joe Dumars and Vinnie Johnson would have had to sacrifice some of their game. And that's not what they wanted. I don't think that would have been the right way for their team to play. So Chuck Daly and whoever the general manager was at the time, I think it was Jack McCloskey. I think they made the right move.
Yeah, it was Jack McCloskey, and that answered that question for me right there. Bob Pettit, he's naming them all. I truly wish I owned a Bob Pettit jersey. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, what 2-time NBA MVP, a guy that doesn't get a whole lot of mentions as one of the best, from newer generations. But no, it definitely is not Drazen. I mean, not Bob Pettit. Wow, Derek, I didn't realize about your injury and Drazen being brought in. Holy cow! See, you're turning people's heads
True
and eyes
story.
left and right, man. So it is a true story. It is a true story. Gazzado's in here. He says Joe Johnson. He's just naming everybody. Cliff Hagan, Pete Maravich. You know what?
Pistol Pete.
We're just gonna give Gazzado the win because it is a Pistol Pete Maravich throwback Atlanta Hawk jersey. So Gazzado's the winner tonight. It is a Pistol Pete jersey. So yes, congratulations,
Rudy,
Gazzado
that
out
is
there, man.
fantastic. It could only been between 2 players, number 22 or number 44. And for those who don't know who number 22 is, that's John Drew was his name.
I mean, it was a Maravich jersey. I've always wanted a Maravich jersey.
Pistol
He was one of my
Pete,
favorite
shout
players.
out to Jason Maravich. I love you, Jason. That's Pistol's son. Pete lost one of his sons about 3 or 4 months ago, and the one that's still here with us is Jason Maravich. So shout out to Jason and the Maravich family.
Yeah, shout out to the Maravich family, man. We got a couple of guys in here. Let's get to these before we get off the air here. So speaking of international, if Yugoslavia didn't split up as a country, would they have been the first
Oh
team
boy.
to dethrone the U.S. NBA teams in Olympics?
Woo.
I will say,
Vlade.
God, you're talking Vlade, you're talking Drazen, right?
Draž.
You're
I believe
talking.
Dino Raja.
I was going to mention Dino Raja. Who else was on? Was Kukoc?
Kukoc.
Kukoc would have been another. Honestly, Derek,
Oh boy.
I would say
Who?
probably so. If not, they would have given them a run for their money.
You know why I gave them a really great chance is because remember it goes back to chemistry again. These guys grew up together.
Yeah.
And so when you have that dynamic and you're used to playing with each other, we already remember what Argentina did, right?
Yeah.
With Alberto and what's his name, Scola and Pepe Sanchez and Manu and all those guys. And they
Yeah.
weren't the type. I don't think they were anywhere as good as Yugoslavia. So
No.
yeah, that would have been an interesting one to see. I'm going to say the U.S. would have won because I'm an American, but I would have been sweating bullets if they were to meet with that team. Wow.
It would have been a great game, and because I was apologizing, he's taking over the show. You don't apologize for anything like that, man. He says, "How good would the Pistons have been if they had drafted Carmelo Anthony?" Now, I mean, you're talking about what the Pistons at the time were NBA champions. I mean, they were right there. So, or they were on the verge, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm trying to remember correctly off the top of my head. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Carmelo fit that Pistons squad, to be honest with you. I mean, that was a blue
Kind of
collar
like
Piston team.
kind of like Adrian Dantley. But
Yeah,
now you
I
got
would
Rip
say so.
Hamilton and all those guys. You got Rasheed. You got Rip Hamilton and those guys having to sacrifice their games now to keep Carmelo engaged. And you know Carmelo's only going to play on one end of the floor. And those Piston teams that won the championships, from the Isaiah Thomas teams to the Rip Hamilton and Tayshaun Prince teams, those teams made their living on defense. And so
Yeah,
I don't know how it would have went with Carmelo. We all know Carmelo can get 30, but it would have been a good 30, a winning 30? So, but that's a great question.
that's a very good. And I mean, it would have been nasty to see, yeah, but I think exactly what I was saying and what Derek was saying. I think he made mention of the Adrian Dantley type of back in the 80s. I think it's kind of the same thing. I think Carmelo could have worked for a little bit, but eventually it probably wouldn't have worked with that
Did,
five
did,
right there for the
did,
Pistons.
did it work with him and Allen Iverson in Denver?
No, not at all.
Because you got two ball dominant guys.
Yeah,
Who very ball dominant guys, matter of fact, and they're gonna take shots regardless. And you know, sometimes that'll hurt a team. The difference between like Dallas and Luka's gonna take attempts. Kyrie is not gonna force the issue, and
yeah,
I think that's what's gonna make Dallas, dangerous again this year as we get near the playoffs, because Kyrie is not necessarily a ball dominant guy. And when you got AI and you got Carmelo, sometimes that can cause combustion or friction in the locker rooms, and we just don't hear about it in the media. But in the locker room, sometimes that can cause problems.
yeah. It can cause a lot of problems, man. He says Carmelo after championship, he would have helped offensively. Again, it's what ifs, and those are the big what ifs, man. We got a lot of what ifs to go over, and we didn't even get to even a quarter of what we wanted to get into tonight with all the comments, and we appreciate every single comment out there. It was fun, and we're going to be doing this again because this is a fun time, man. I loved talking NBA hoops like we always do, but not today's hoops. We're talking old school hoops, and we're going to do this again because I've always wondered ball handling skills. I've always wondered, Derek, who are your all time top 5 players to never win a title? Funny because Steven Jackson will never say Karl Malone is in the top 5. I mean, I think, basketball heads would have Carl in the top 5 for never winning a title, but I understand the animosity. I understand what's going on. I understand people have hatred towards Carl, whatever. But if you're talking basketball, I mean, Carl deserves to be in the top 5 as one of the all.
Over 30,000 points, man, and I think over what 12,000 rebounds or something close to that.
Yeah, no matter how you feel about the guy, I mean, he is one of the all-time great players, period. I mean, the second best power forward to ever play the game. I mean, I have Tim ahead of him, but I think
I
the
got the
second best.
second.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to even do that, but guys like Barkley, even Stockton deserves to be up there. Would you put Ewing in the top 5?
You remember
Well,
my
George.
last name, sir?
Yeah, I mean, George is
I got
up
a
there.
brother that was 5 time. I got a brother that was 5-time first team All NBA.
I know. I have George up there, but
Well, I
I'm
know
trying.
you know, but
I'm just trying to
but I
figure out
know some
Ewing.
other people might not know. 5
Oh,
times. So even when we bring up like Stockton and those guys, see, even when I hear about, we could talk about this another day, but when I hear about like Iverson and I hear about Dwayne Wade, Iverson is a 3-time first team All NBA, great player. Wade is a 2-time All NBA first team. George Gervin is a 5-time All NBA first team.
Yeah. That's enough said right there. I mean, that he's in the top 5 of guys to never win an NBA title. Before we go, Patrick Ewing, where does he rank?
Ooh, he's definitely up there in the top 6 or 7. Pat, to me, what hurt Pat is he was more dominant with Georgetown than he was, I think, with the Knicks. With the Knicks, he kind of became a jump shooter, and he's always going to be remembered for what, missing that finger roll. I believe it was against Indiana, and I know people never forget that. But we know Patrick was a great player, maybe the greatest player of the Knicks in their history. But I don't know if I have one. I'm gonna say that so we can talk about this top 5.
Yeah, we're gonna save that for the next time we do old school NBA talk. Might be next week, maybe next Wednesday. Again, college football's coming to the end. You got solid CFPs coming up, so we usually do that on Thursday and Friday. Go over all of our football stuff, but I think next Wednesday we'll open up the vault again, the NBA vault, and just do a little bit more talking about throwback. So appreciate
Reggie
everybody.
Miller.
Oh God, Reggie Miller! Come on, man.
I had to throw that name in there, just so people, so they mind, so it'll be something to talk about again.
That's going to be a good one because Reggie's definitely up there with. I know you've said it, and a lot of people have agreed. A very overrated player, overhyped type player. So that'll be another guy we can get into. Also, I like the international talk that you and I have had on the phone before. We got to bring that to fruition here and tell everybody about it, because when you talk about guys that I mentioned to you about players who could have made it in the NBA in their prime, obviously you go Sabonis, but I mean, you and I mentioned guys like Oscar Schmidt, Shane Heal's another one out of Australia. I mean, even though Shane Heal played with the Spurs, he played with the Spurs, but I mean, never got a good opportunity, man. Andrew Gaze is another one that played with the Spurs, but
Andrew Gaze, Seton Hall.
Yeah, I mean, these are guys that if they were in their prime in the NBA, you would have seen a whole nother international player. And I'm sure the old heads out there remember Sarunas Marciulionis. My original Manu Ginobili was Sarunas Marciulionis.
Yeah.
He was doing Manu things before Manu was even in the NBA. So we're gonna get into international talk. We'll talk more about the guys that never win a title, best ball handlers. Crazy that nobody had Isaiah Thomas in their top 5 when they were talking about it on a TikTok video I saw. I'm amazed by that. Yeah,
those are young people, because Isaiah was a globetrotter.
Yeah, I mean, Zeke was a freak out there. Yeah, we did talk about Drazen. I'm not wearing the Drazen jersey. It's a Pistol Pete jersey, Jacob. But also another what if, Derek, that I want to talk to you about next time is Kawhi Leonard. The biggest what if for me, because a healthy Kawhi Leonard would have definitely given everybody Michael Jordan vibes. I'm gonna leave everybody on that note there, because a healthy Kawhi Leonard would give everybody Michael Jordan vibes. We're gonna get into that next Wednesday when we open up the vault here on Sweep the League for more NBA talk. Appreciate everybody that has joined us here tonight. Appreciate everybody that goes to our YouTube page, goes and search Sweep the League TV. Be a subscriber today so you don't miss out on these talks with myself and Derek Irvin, Hall of Famer Derek Irvin. Coach Gio, again, she'll be coming back very, very soon. So shout out to everybody out there that joins us every single night. We'll be back tomorrow. Indiana, Notre Dame, Derek, do your homework, do your research. We're making that pick tomorrow. Indiana, Notre Dame, the CFP starts this weekend. So for Hall of Famer Derek Irvin, Rudy Campos Jr., until we sweep the league again tomorrow, we'll see you later, knuckleheads.
Happy holiday to everybody. Stay safe.
Are you looking for a contracting company that gets the job done right the first time? Look no further than MCS General Contracting. MCS specializes in top quality concrete work, including patios, driveways, foundations, and swimming pools. The team of experts are dedicated to delivering exceptional results and unparalleled customer satisfaction. At MCS General Contracting, they're not just hardworking, they're local. Based in San Antonio, they are committed to building relationships and trust within the community. That's why MCS guarantees your satisfaction. They pride themselves on getting the job done right the first time, every time. So why wait? Contract MCS General Contracting today to schedule your project and experience the difference for yourself. MCS General Contracting, building a better San Antonio, one project at a time. Proud sponsors of Sweep the League.
Are you a hockey fan looking for the latest on the Edmonton Oilers, Pittsburgh Penguins, and NHL news of the week? Barry and Carson Best bring it all to you on the Best Boys Center Ice podcast. They break down games, provide insider updates, and keep you up to speed every week. Don't miss out. Subscribe now and join their hockey family.
Exclusive interviews with Rudy and the crew. Let's go. For the ones who doubted, now we showing the proof. Came from the struggle, we live in the truth.
STL Music.
Yeah, challenges come, but we here to stay. Built from the dirt, now we paving the way. Had a bad day, but this life ain't